New police body camera footage is giving us another officer's view of that deadly attack on police during the January 6th riot. In a complaint filed by the Justice Department, these pictures from a D.C. police officer's body cam appear to show Thomas Webster, a retired NYPD officer, approaching a police barricade holding a metal pole with a Marine Corps flag on it. According to the complaint, Webster repeatedly swore at the officer and began to shove the barricade into the police line. The body cam photos in the complaint captured Webster as he raised the metal pole above his head and began to swing it into the barricade and then at the officer, striking him several times as he attempted to protect himself. After the officer was able to wrench the metal pole away, Webster, who the complaint says appears to be wearing body armor, charged through the barricade and went after the officer with clenched fists. The Justice Department cites photos from social media they say shows Webster tackling the officer to the ground and attempting to rip off the officer's gas mask. The officer told the DOJ that his chin strap was choking him, leaving him unable to breathe during parts of the assault. The body cam captured this image of Webster hovering over the officer as others moved in. Our NBC station in New York reports that during Webster's time as an NYPD officer, he was assigned to City Hall to protect elected leaders, just like the officer he allegedly attacked. Webster's lawyer tells NBC News that his client was hit by the officer before retaliating and is pleading not guilty to charges of assault. The lawyer also said Webster was attending the rally at the behest of the President of the United States. Joining me now is New York Democratic Congresswoman Kathleen Rice. She is a member of the Homeland Security Committee. Congresswoman, thank you so much for your time. First, let me get your reaction to when you hear something like this, an NYPD police officer, a retired one, attacking another police officer in the line of duty to protect elected officials. They literally hold the same job, to protect elected officials, and yet here was the NYPD officer attacking this Capitol Police officer.
Yeah, you know, I have to say, I hate to say this, but it's not shocking. I mean, let's start with the problem, okay? Whether we're talking about the election, COVID, or any other issue, there are millions of Americans who believe things that are just factually not true. The disinformation ecosystem in social and traditional media is so widespread and pervasive that those who stormed the Capitol truly thought that they were doing the right thing. This is a terrifying reality, and it poses a grave threat to our democracy. Now, as to this individual, not only was he a retired police officer, NYPD police officer, he was a former Marine. And what we know now is that 1 in 5 of the insurrectionists who stormed the Capitol on January 6th were veterans. And there is a specific targeted attempt by malicious actors online targeting veterans because they are likely to be politically engaged and carry significant influence on issues related to patriotism, national security, defense, and public service. So when you pair this vulnerability to disinformation online with the way that, say, Facebook presents information to its users by continuing to direct them to the disinformation, it's obvious that the social media platforms have to take responsibility for their role in, continuing this flood of misinformation and disinformation specifically targeted at veterans.
Yeah, and so to that point, I understand that you sent a letter to Facebook Chief Executive Mark Zuckerberg asking for information about Facebook's role in disseminating that disinformation to veterans and service members that ultimately contributed to the embrace of extremist ideologies. You obviously feel that they play a big role, that social media plays a big role in the radicalization of these perpetrators, but what actions do you want Facebook to specifically take? What did you write in that letter to Mark Zuckerberg?
So basically what we were asking Facebook, we're laying out the issue that there is this disinformation, misinformation campaign on social media that is targeting veterans. And it's happening on social media platforms like Facebook. So they have been a central platform for these conspiracy theories and disinformation to spread. And they have a responsibility to stop it. So basically what we were saying is, tell us what algorithms you use. How is it that you direct your users, specifically veterans, to the information that they are digesting on your platform? And then once we have a lay of the land there, then we can go about figuring out a way that we can hold Facebook and other social media platforms as well responsible for how they groom their users and feed them mis and disinformation, because this has got to stop. This is one of the greatest threats to our democracy at the present day.
Do you think that there are steps that police departments and military organizations can take to root out extremist behavior and white supremacy? As you noted, many of them may be drawn to this extremist ideology, but they also have that paramilitary experience or the military experience, which could be, in a situation like the riots, a very dangerous combination.
So look, I think everyone is responsible, right? Whether I think it's incumbent in a post-January 6th world for organizations, law enforcement organizations, the military, to do a deep dive. Look at the social media, what people are following, what their members or, active duty members or police officer, law enforcement personnel are looking at, because they're by their training, they are rule followers, right? They take orders. And a lot of them who have been interviewed, the insurrectionists who were veterans and former law enforcement, said that they felt that they were taking their marching orders from their commander-in-chief, Donald Trump, who was the president at the time. And this is just built into their DNA from their training. So we have to address this very vulnerable population and hold not just their employers responsible, whether they be the military or local law enforcement, but the social media platforms that actually allow the dis and misinformation to be targeted directly to them.
All right, Congresswoman Kathleen Roy, thank you so much for your time on a very important subject matter. Greatly appreciate it.